Hello and welcome to my channel, Making Crafts. Today I am creating a project from the rubber buggy, and this is my design team project for the rubber buggy, so that's where these items came from. So I will link to those below in case you are interested in them. I'm going to be using the Lost in Time Craft O'Clock paper pack, 8x8 paper pack, and I'm also going to be using their fussy cut pack, which is called the extra set. And I have a video where I do a flip through of both of these. So I will link to that in the upper right hand corner as well as in the description. So today's project is using mainly the Accordion Folio by Tim Holtz. And when I saw this in the shop, I really wanted to give it a try. I like sometimes using things that's pre-made. I like making my own things, but some days it's fun to use something pre-made and see what you can come up with. So it comes with this little bow on it, and the paper itself feels like a file folder, and it looks like a file folder. It's like they've cut apart some sort of file folder to make these, but I'm not so sure that's what it is. It may be just the same paper. So it opens up like that, and then you can open this down, and then you have this accordion fold piece inside. So this is the piece that we are going to be working with today. So we'll just lay the actual cover aside, or the rest of the folio aside, and we will be working with that later. But today, let's work with the accordion piece, and then we'll go back to the cover. So to get started on the little accordion piece, I've gone ahead and chosen the piece of paper that I want for the first flap. And so I'm going to take my ruler and pencil. I'm going to need both of those to do this. I'm going to show you how I do it. So I first measure this flap, and this flap measures 4 inches wide. I've already done a little bit of measuring on it. So it is 4 inches wide, and then at the tallest part of the flap, it's almost 3.5, not quite. And then at the lower end, it's 3 inches. So what I want to do is I want to have the paper of this folio showing as a border around all my pieces. So in order to do that, I'm just going to cut all the pieces 1/4 of an inch smaller. So each measurement, I'll have to take 1/4 of an inch off. So for the width of this, it's 4 inches, so I'm going to cut it at 3 3/4. So I'm just going to cut a strip down to 3 3/4. Then, that's for the width here, so it'll fit inside there. Then for the height, I'm going to cut the tallest height minus 1/4 of an inch. So that is almost 3.5, so we're going to cut it around, we'll cut it 3.5, about 3 1/4. So we're going to cut it 3 1/4 tall. So we'll save all the other pieces because we're going to need those in a few minutes. So there you can see that it's going to be taller on the shorter end. And I know in the lighting it's hard to see. I'm trying to hold it up. So now we just need to mark our next cut. So I think I'm going to have this side showing. So I'm just wanting to see. Yes. So what I want to do is I want to take my ruler. So we know that this measures 3 inches tall. So just going to take our ruler and we're going to mark on the little paper at 2 3/4 of an inch. So you're just going to put a pencil mark there. And that is your shortest measurement. So you're going to put it back in your paper trimmer, and you're going to have you're going to angle it so that the top corner of your paper is right against the edge, and then this pencil mark is against the edge as well, so you're going to cut it at an angle. And so we cut the angle into our paper. And we're going to do this for each one, but we're adding things to each one, so I will go through it with you. But so you can see, here it is on the piece, and you can see that it's framed out. And that's how I want to frame it out. And then I'm going to ink around it. And then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and create the back side piece. So you have two things. You can do exactly like we just did, or you can take your strip and you can just use it as your guide, and then just trim it down. So I think that's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my piece that I already cut as my guide, and I'll just trace here, and then I know put a marking here, and I'll just cut it down. So the bottom marking is supposed to be straight, and then the top marking, I want to the side though. I do want to put this side here. Yes, so I'm just going to cut on that line that I traced. And you could use your scissors. You don't have to use your paper trimmer. And there you have the next side. So you have it. So I'm using the back side there. It doesn't matter which one to me, which one I use, because I'm going to flip-flop them around. And so I'm going to save this little piece that I cut off because it's going to become a pocket on this one. So I'm going to put pockets on some of these, and some of the flaps I'm not. And so we'll work through that as we go. So I'm just going to lay all these pieces aside, and we'll glue them on in a moment. And let's go ahead and cover each one of our flaps first. So we have new measurements for the next side. So I'll work through some of these with you just in case you need help with them. And then I'll just give you the measurements for each piece that I cut. I don't know that we'll work through all of them. Let's see how long it takes. Okay, so for the next flap, it measures 3 3/4 and at the tallest point, and then about 3 1/2 at the smallest point. And all of them are going to be 4 inches wide. So we just need another strip that measures 3 3/4. So I'm just going to take, let's see, I'm going to take a different piece of paper, but I'm going to save these strips for later. So let's take this piece from the paper pack, and let's cut down a 3 3/4 inch strip. Laying the other one aside because we're going to use it. So then once again, we want to cut this one smaller. So since it measures 3 3/4, we're going to cut it at 3 1/2. And then we just take our smallest height here, which is almost 3 1/2, not quite, and we'll just go down to 3 1/4 with it. We're just going to take our pencil and mark it because I find that this is the easiest way for me. Now you may have an easier way. So 3 1/4. I think is what I said. Let me measure that again. I don't want to mess up. So 3 1/2, so I need to measure, put my pencil mark at 3 1/4. This will be a good way, if you have this folio, if you order this folio, just taking your time to watch the video all the way through to see how I do it, and then you can actually play the video back through and follow along, so that if you need help with all the measurements. I missed that angle just a little, so I'm just going to trim a little off there. I left a little corner. There we go. I was talking and didn't quite get it. So we'll make sure that angle looks right. I think that's good enough. And so I just need another one for the back side. So I need to find that piece of paper I laid aside. Oh, here it is. And let's see here. We'll just, I think I want to do, you have to think now, if you lay it this way, so it's going to be the actual side that you're going to be covering now is this side. So you have to decide, which paper do you want? Do you want it turned this way or this way? So I'm going to use this side. So I have to turn it like this to get the right angle. And I'm just going to hold it down to the bottom this time because it is taller. I'm not going to have as much left over. And then I'm just going to cut that piece off. And you could do that with your scissors, or you can just line it up on your paper and do it on your paper trimmer and do it that way. So now we have the front and the back piece cut. Now on the back piece, on the back of each one, I want to put a pocket, but I will come back with some of my extra scraps and the extra strips that's left over, and make pockets. But let's go ahead and cover all these pieces now. So what I like to do is kind of lay it out to kind of see what the color scheme, how it's going up through here, because you're going to see that you're going to see each color as it goes up. So I'm just trying to get an idea how it's looking, and I'm liking that so far. So for the next piece, what do I want to use? So I'm going to use this sheet from the set, and I'm going to use this side to cover the next one up. So once again, I want to cut a strip at 3 3/4. And then let's go ahead and measure that piece. I'm measuring the lower end, so we're on flap number 3 on the accordion fold, and the lowest point measures almost 3 3/4. So we're going to cut that at 3 1/2. So I want to do it on the left hand side because that's where the lowest point is, and I'm going to measure at 3 1/2, and then I'm just going to make a little mark there, and then I'll just cut from there to my peak. And that should fit. And so we just need to trace this one onto another piece. And now we have our 2 pieces. So one will go on the front, and then one will go on the back. So we have 2 more flaps to go. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 strips at 3 3/4 because I know that's how wide they need to be. Now we just need to do the measurements. So our tallest point is around just a little over 4 1/2, and then our smallest, okay, so let's do the first one. So 4 1/2. So I need to cut it at 4 1/4. So we have our 2 pieces. So now we just have to cut the angle. So we're just going to, once again, measure the lower side, which is 4 and almost 4 1/4, not quite. So we'll cut it at 4. So we'll mark it at 4, not cut it yet. We're just going to mark at 4 inches. So I'm going to put the bottom at 4 and then mark where it comes up to. And then we will cut from our angle here to that mark, or from our corner to that mark. And that's how we're getting our angle, is we're cutting that from that corner to the mark. And if you have any pencil marks left at the end, you can just erase them. It looks like it needs just a little bit deeper cut off, so that's what I'm going to do. Is I just went back, I didn't cut my pencil mark off, and it didn't look quite right, so I did go back and just cut my pencil mark, and I think that's better. So we have that one. So then we're just going to use that one to trace onto this one. Got a little bit of paper showing there. There we go. So then I'm just going to trace it onto this one. Actually, I don't need to trace it. I can take my scissors and trim that down. So that's what I'm going to do. Just trying to keep it simple, because it's about the right height. It just needs trimming down. Okay, so for our very last flap, I'm going to cut a 3 3/4 inch strip. And I am using this piece of paper for it. In case you're following along and want to use the same paper, that's what I'm using. So I'm just going to cut it 3 3/4 inch wide. And then for the height, let's just measure the height at the tallest point. And that will be, it's very close to 5 inches. So it's a little under. So I'm going to cut this at 4 3/4 tall. And I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 of those, and I've already done that. I've got my second one here so that we can just cut the angles next. So we're just going to do like we did for all of the rest, and we're going to measure the smallest point, which is you know what, it's a little over 4 1/2, about 1 mark. So I'm just going to go with 4 1/2, and so I'm going to mark it, each one at, well, just one of them, and then I'll mark one, and I think it's going to be this one, and I'm going to mark it at, let me see that again, measure twice, right, and cut once, so 4 1/4. So let's do that. We're going to cut it 4 1/4, and I just want to make sure that seems right, because that looks about right when I set it there. That looks good. So now we'll just take the other one and just use this one as our guide and cut the other one. So I'm just going to use my scissors for this part. I think that looks good. So So now we have all of our pieces cut for our flaps. So let's start decorating it. So before I glue my pieces on, what I want to do is I want to pull out some of these fussy cut sheets, or extra sheets as they call it, but I call them fussy cuts. And I want to decide some that I want to cut out and use because I'm going to decorate this up with them. So I want these to be cut out and ready to go once I am decorating. So I think I want these darker ones, and I might cut out some of the lighter ones. And I do want some of the insects. I'm trying to decide which ones I want. I think they're all about, I think the sheets are the same. Yes, so let's get out the 2 flower sheets and 1 of the insect sheets. So I'm going to cut these out and then I'll come back with you and we'll decorate. Okay, so I have my accordion piece and I have all of my pieces cut ready to glue on, and then I've fussy cut some of the flowers and bees and butterflies and different, maybe dragonflies as well, to decorate it. So let's get started on adding it all to the accordion piece. So I know I want this to be my front piece. Now when I glue this down, it's going to seem a little odd at first. So when I first glue it down, I'm just going to glue 3 sides. Then I'll come back with my glue and just edge it down in there once I'm done, because I want to make sure that I don't want to tuck any of the flowers into it. So we're going to decorate the upper edge with the bees and the flowers. So I don't want to take away that option, but I do want the paper already on it. So I can always go back and add a little bit more glue to tack it down. So I'm just going to add it first to the bottom, the 3 sides, and then the center. I can always do the center. I just want to leave the top edge where I can tuck a little bit of the flowers in if I want to. And then, like I said, I'll come back and I will glue it completely down when I get done. But once I glue some of the pieces over it, it's not going to be necessary anyway. And I am trying to decide, do I want to grunge this up just a little bit by inking the edges? And I think I do. So I'm just going to go through and ink the edges just a little bit with the ground espresso. Okay, so I lightly inked the entire accordion piece, and I do like that better, and I think it's going to show up on camera better for you as well. It's not going to all blend so much, and maybe you'll get a better view of it. So I'm going to go through and ink all of the pieces I cut down, and then I'm going to add them to the accordion fold. And I am going to do like I did the first one. I'm going to add glue to the whole back except for the top strip here, so that I can tuck flowers and different things in when I'm decorating. And if I decide not to do that, then I can always go back and just tuck a little glue down in there. So that's how I'm going to do this, to leave myself that option. So now I'm going to take all the fussy cuts and I'm going to decorate the top edge. So when I do this, I don't want to cover the edges, all the tops too much, because it's going to be way too busy. So I want to try to lay it out so that it still looks good, but you see all these different flowers and insects. So I'm just going to lay it out, and then I'll probably have to keep changing it around until I get exactly the way I want it. Okay, so I think I like this layout. I'll save these over here so I can add them as I glue it on, but now I'm just going to start gluing them on. I'm just going to use my art glitter glue to glue them on. I need to keep everything off of these edges since these pages have to open and close. So I'm going to have it come in just a ways so that it doesn't hinder them opening and closing. So I also need to remember, when I add the glue, just add the glue to the bottom of the flower, since the part, and the bugs, since the bottom part is the only thing you want to stick. You don't want to add glue to the top part that's going to be hanging over. So I'm just going to add a little glue at the bottom here just to get it tacked on, and then I can always go back under and add a little bit more glue if I need to. It's just harder to take the glue away once you've added it, because everything's still going to be rather sticky when you do. And I'm using wet glue so I can easily move it while it's still wet to make a decision where things should go. So there is a lot to remember as you're gluing this on. So just pay attention to those things. Oops, I knocked that one loose. So this one is going to be on this page. So what I was talking about is you'd want to make sure this is still going to close. You don't want to be too close to the fold line or the edges. So we're going to open this one up, and we're going to have these with the butterfly, I do believe, but I don't want to cover up that greenery, so I think I may change it out. I may do a little something different. What if we did that? So that one I kind of like better, and then I can add the, oops, just slung that, and then I can add the butterfly. Is it going to make my butterfly get lost? I think that would be fine. Okay, so now I have the decorations added. I love how this turned out because I love how you can see the different flowers and the butterflies and the insects through it. So now let's start adding pockets to some of the pages. So I'm not going to add pockets to all of the pages, kind of on the back side of some I am. So I've gone ahead and cut some strips to make the pocket. So the first strip that I cut was 1.5 by 3 3/4 to go on this page, and it goes this direction. So then I'm just going to do every other one here. So this one probably will be glued in, so I'm just going to fold it back. So I'll add a pocket here, and then I'm going to add a pocket to this one. So for it, I cut a strip at 2 1/4 by 3 3/4. And so there we have a pocket. But I do want to go back. I have inked them, but I forgot. I want to add just a little thumb hole here where you can pull out things out of the pocket. So I'm just going to eyeball that in the center and then punch it. And then we'll go back and just ink the little half circle. So here's this one. So there we have the pockets for this side. So let's add those, and then we'll flip it over and do the other side. You could add pockets to every page, but I didn't want to because I didn't want to cover up some of the decorations on the pages. So now I want to flip it over, and I'm going to add pockets to, let's see here, to this one, and I've already cut the pocket. So I cut it at 2 1/4 inch by 3 3/4, and then I'm going to add a pocket here, but I thought this paper was just too beautiful to cover up. And I could just put pockets side by side, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that. So I am going to add a piece here, and I cut it at about 1 1/4, just a little over 1 1/4 by by, I forgot what that one was, by 4. And so when you do that, remember to cut this side a little higher and just cut it at a slant to fit in there. And so I've got to put my holes in these. I'll just ink those. And then let me clean up these that I shot over here. Okay, so we're going to add this one this way. So I'm just going to glue around the top, bottom, and side and leave one side open to tuck things in. And I think this would make a great addition to a journal. So I think that's what I'll do to it. Or it may just be an individual thing that I use. I'm not sure. I think it'd be great added to a journal though. We'll see how thick it gets when I get done, if it's going to be a journal edition or its own little mini journal. This is just the first step of this folio, is making the accordion part. Once again, I'm pressing in. Makes room in there. So there we have our pockets. So let's start decorating them up. I've gone ahead and fussy cut some of the pieces out from the kit. And for this one, I've cut the little circle here that has a rose in it. I said from the kit, from the paper pack, the extras pack. And then there's a little button. I'm trying to find it. Here it is. Let's ink it up. I think I had another button cut out. I'll have to find it as well. And I'm just going to stick that on there. Okay, so just add that there. So I'm just going to take my awl and press a hole in this little cardboard button, and then I am going to add some stitches there to make it look like a real button. So all I've done is just run the string through, and I'm just going to tie a little knot in it, and I think this will just add a little more dimension or something, you know, just add a little something to it. So I'm going to get my little knot tied in, and then we'll just glue it on. So this one I am going to use my Fabri-Tac on just because it has some dimension to it, and I'm afraid that it won't stick. Just a little bit. A bunch came out. I just need a little bit on there. So here's the completed accordion portion of the folio, and I really love how it turned out. I love all these colors together in this paper, and I have decorated the pockets, and I think this one didn't get on camera, but this is just more of the fussy cuts from the extra set that I showed you earlier. And let's see, this side I think I showed all of this, and these are just fussy cuts from that set as well. So be sure to check back next Tuesday. I'll be continuing to work on the folio, and I will be doing the cover portion and the inside of the folio itself. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial and that it helps you in using one of these folios and decorating it and giving you some ideas of what to do with the folio. Well, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.